Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. So, um, hopefully, we've got some people watching. Just checking everything is up and running. So, um, as we go through tonight, I'm going to start with a little bit of preamble. Then I'm going to talk about why breath awareness is important. And then I'm going to tell you about 10 minutes in, I'm going to go through what we're going to do. And then the actual exercise will take something like 15 to 20 minutes of an exercise that you can do. You can do tonight, sitting wherever you are, or day if you're in America, wherever you are, or watching it off a different time. So, start off, just like to say, hope everybody had a good Christmas and moving towards New Year. So hopefully everybody has a good New Year. We are based in London, which is in Tier 4, pretty much lockdown. And on top of that, we've had, so there's no jiu-jitsu going on, no freediving going on, nothing happening in London, particularly in the way of training. But equally well, in our house, we're self-isolating. We've had a case of COVID, so we are literally locked down, not allowed to leave the house. So interesting times as we go forward towards New Year. But I hope everybody had a good Christmas. Everybody's kind of looking towards the new year with a positive mental attitude. And if you if you've watched any of my videos, you'll know that refers back to somebody very specific. Positive mental attitude. Okay, so that's the preamble. So I'd like to tell, or just, we've been in lockdown over Christmas. We've not been out of the house. And there's a time when this sort of stuff is, breath awareness is going to be useful, and this is one of those times, which is why I've decided to do it tonight, in between Christmas and New Year. Why breath awareness? Okay, so breath awareness leads to control, okay, whether that's control of your breath or control of your body. So if you're freedivers and you're interested in controlling your breathing, to do freediving, then that's where the breath awareness starts. It all starts with the breath awareness. Is where it starts. If you are interested in using these techniques for any other sports, then it's control of your body that you're looking for. And the control of your body starts with your breath. The yogics say the breath is a silken thread with which we control our entire body. But more than control, it gives us perspective and focus on any situation. So if you're in a sporting competition and you need focus, then you can use these breathing techniques. If you're in a personal situation where you need a bit of perspective on what's going on, you can use these techniques. If you're in a stressful, maybe a work scenario, again, where you need a focus, you need the ability to start controlling your actions very specifically, you can use these techniques. Okay, so that's why we're starting with breath awareness, because everything else leads from that. Control of everything else starts from breath control. Breath control starts with breath awareness. Okay, the joy of these techniques are you can take them anywhere. You can take them everywhere. You trust your breathing. You breathe all day, every day. You trust that it's there, and you take it with you. So this exercise I'm going to go through with you tonight, you can do it anywhere. All right. I'm going to ask you later on, or I'm going to tell you. In fact, no, why tell you later on? I'm going to tell you now. I'm going to suggest you sit down and do it, but you can do it standing up. So you might be in a scenario, a sporting competition, in a warm-up zone, or on a boat, or standing in a crowd. I remember standing in crowds. Yeah, we used to do that. But wherever you are, you can do these techniques. Okay, so tonight or today, when you're doing this actually right now, I'm going to suggest you sit down and do it, just so you haven't got that interruption in your kind of focus. But you can do it anyway. You can do it standing up, you can do it sitting down. As with all these breathing techniques, I suggest you don't do them laying down, because you're going towards the sleep. You've taught yourself that when you lay down, you're going to go to sleep. So you want to maybe avoid laying down. But that's why we're going to do it. Okay, it's only going to be 15 or 20 minutes exercise. And you can zip straight to that bit if you've watched this before and you want to go through it. And use just the exercise. Okay, so moving forwards, that's why we're going to start with breath awareness. That's why breath awareness is so important, because we can use it to control our breath, control our body, and then start dealing with our situations. We can use it for focus and perspective, whether it's we want perspective on the situation or whether we want focus before a situation. Okay, and this is why I've put this kind of links out on jiu-jitsu pages and on freediving pages, because it doesn't matter which of the two, or you might be coming from a triathlon point of view. It doesn't matter where you're going to use it. It brings you perspective of that moment, but it also allows you to focus on the moment that's just about to happen. So in a jiu-jitsu scenario, you can use these techniques obviously before a competition or a roll, but you can actually use them during the roll. Okay. Freediving, you can use it before the event. You can't really use them during the event because you're holding your breath. Okay, and I also put in the comments about rowing, just to pick a different type of exercise where it's not necessarily fast and short, but a long, extended exercise. You can use these techniques or this exercise during, or bits of it during the actual activity. So that's why we're going to do it. So what are we going to do? Well, if somebody has got if any of you guys out there have got previous experience, you can pull it in, you can use it in. So if you've done some meditation, this will be similar to some pre-meditation techniques or actual techniques that you use during meditation. That's not to say you have to do meditation or have to have done meditation before this, but that's where it kind of fits in. Equally well, if you've done some pranayama, some yogic breathing, you will see similarities to the breathing that you use during Shavasana, Ujjayi breath. If you know how to do Ujjayi breath, you can bring it in the early parts, but I would suggest when you actually get deep down into it, you don't need it. Okay, it's not needed. Equally well, belly breathing. If you can do either stage 1 or stage 2 belly breathing, if you want to see the difference between them, a couple of videos, a couple of weeks ago, we did belly breathing and the different parts of it. You can bring them in again at the beginning of it, but I would say not to focus on it later on. So what I'm saying is, if you've got no experience at all, you're going to be in exactly the same situation as somebody knows what I've just been talking about for the last couple of minutes. Okay, you're in exactly the same position, which is, you don't need anything. You don't need any like previous experience. You can pull on them and draw them in if you have got previous experience. If you haven't, it doesn't set you back. Okay, so it's not necessary. Any previous experience, you could just follow my instructions. So in a minute, I'm going to tell you to close your eyes and breathe through your nose. There's 147 reasons why you should breathe through your nose, by the way. Again, see previous videos. But the whole exercise will start with nasal breathing because we can really bring the focus back to that point easier through the nose. And then later on we'll be working with opening the mouth and breathing through the mouth. And it's the control that we're looking at. So let's have a quick look. So yeah, we've got a little bit of time, so I've still got another 4 minutes before we're going to start the exercise. So We will concentrate on the parts, the points, the moments between breaths. Okay. But we have to be able to concentrate on them, we have to see the breath. We have to step back and see the breath before we can start concentrating on the bits between the breaths. Okay. There are 4 parts of the breath. Okay. 4 parts. There's a passive inhalation, active inhalation, passive exhalation, active exhalation. And there's 4 transition points between those. 2 of them are the ones you kind of already know about, just because you're alive. So it's at the top of the breath where the transition changes from inhalation to exhalation, and at the bottom of the breath where the transition is from exhalation to inhalation. Okay, they're the 2 transition points at the top and the bottom, but also there's 2 transition points in between where we transition from active inhalation to passive inhalation to active inhalation. There's a transition point here, passive exhalation to active exhalation. There's a transition point in there, and they're the points we want to concentrate on. Okay, now these are a subtle change in control. That's all they are. But we want to be aware of them so that we can acknowledge them and then control them. Okay, they're very subtle. Very subtle. Now, I've already mentioned some words that you may not have come across. So active inhalation, passive inhalation, and exhalation. So inhalation is where you're breathing in, and exhalation is where you're breathing out. Okay. We have active, where we are controlling, we are creating either the inhalation or the exhalation. Our muscles are creating that. That's an active. On the passive, okay, we're stopping it. We're slowing it down. Okay. So if you take a full lungful of air and just let go, it comes out. So that would be a passive exhalation, okay, where we can slow down that exhalation by controlling it. Now, if I say breathe out as much as you can, that's an active exhalation where you're driving the air out. Okay, so you have passive and active, and we're looking at that changeover between the 2. Okay, so without further ado, we're 1 minute ahead of schedule, which is good for me. If you have any questions, please put them up on the comments. We may not have time to answer them today, but I will answer them next time. So put them up, I'll read them and cover them next time. So without further ado, if you want to sit nice and comfortably, if you are sitting, then you want to push your bum back into the seat as much as you can, okay? So you're not slouching down like this, you're sitting up nice and straight. You want the spine to be as straight as you can. And you want to tuck the chin in slightly, again, keeping that spine straight. So you're not heads up, not up, or your head is not down, your spine is straight. Okay? Pushing your bum back into the seat. If you can, put your feet flat on the floor, okay? Giving you a little bit more stability. But more than that, you're taking away points of focus. The feet are flat on the floor, nice and solid. The hips are there straight. The legs are then evenly placed on the seat. And close your eyes. And as I mentioned earlier, you're going to breathe in through your nose and out through your nose to start with. Now, I also mentioned earlier, the breath is a silken thread with which we control the entire body. In fact, one of my yoga instructors called it breathe, which I love that word, breathe. It's a lot softer. And just take a few moments to be aware of the breath. Where can you feel it? You can feel it as it's going in through the nasal hole, the nose. You can feel it in the top of the nose, up into the sinuses. You can feel it on the back of the throat, both on the inhalation and the exhalation. You have to excuse me. As I do this exercise, I naturally open my eustachian tubes. This is part of the Ujjayi breath, and I'll just do it, and it kind of makes me yawn. So I apologise in advance. So you can feel the air going in through the nose. You can feel the air at the top of the nasal passages in the sinuses and in the back of the throat, and then you can feel the effect on your body. That's it. That's the only places you can feel it. But I want you to take a moment to feel it. Don't worry about how slow it is, fast it is, how deep it is. Just keep it soft and continuous. And try and feel the breath in those 4 places. On the nose, whether it's coming in and out, and the entrance or the exit of the nose, the top of the nasal passages as it's moving around in the sinuses, the back of the throat, and then you can feel the effect on your body. Either your body's increasing in size or depreciating. Depreciated? Getting smaller, expanding or contracting. And now I want you to actively allow your shoulders to soften. Put your hands down somewhere nice and solid. And we're going to start to become aware of these 4 parts of the breath that I was talking about earlier. So as you breathe in, actually just softening your body. If you've breathed out as much as you can, if you just soften your body, air comes in. That's the passive part of the inhalation. So let's just try that. So everybody take a deep breath in. Fully breathe out. Try and squeeze as much air out as you can through the nose, and then just when you get right to the bottom, just relax. The belly will fall forwards and air will come in, and then just go back to your standard breathing. So really want to identify that passive inhalation. So let's do that again. Take a deep breath in and then breathe out everything. Really squash all the air out. Squeeze the body and the chest, and then just relax. The belly falls forwards and air comes in. That's the passive inhalation. And then go back to your normal breathing. So the next part I want you to identify is the active inhalation. So we've got the passive inhalation where the belly's falling forward and the air's just gushing in. Okay. But then I want you to continue to breathe in. So we'll do it together. We'll do the same exercise together. So breathe in fully. Breathe out fully. All the way, squeezing the air out. Squeezing the air out when you get to the fully to the bottom. Just let your belly and everything soften. That's it, passive. And then continue to breathe in. All the way to the top. And then go back to your standard breathing. So what happened there was we exhaled and squeezed out all the air we could. And then we just relaxed and felt the belly fall forwards and air gush in through the nose. And then we continued to breathe in. So the passive part was as the belly was just gushing in. And then the active part of the inhalation was us drawing air in and continue to draw air in. And I don't need to teach you to do this. Okay. Now we're doing these quite harshly, and in a moment we're going to do them again, but we're going to control them. But the We need to be aware of the two parts because we control them differently. So let's try exhalation. So I want you to breathe out reasonably fully and then take a long, deep, soft breath in. Fully breathe in and then just relax and let the air come out. And then go back to your normal breathing. Okay? Now that is our passive exhalation. And we're going to do it again. So breathe out reasonably fully, breathe out, and then take a nice deep breath in. Take as much air as you can, and then just relax. Air comes out. And that is our passive exhalation. So continue to breathe now. Don't think about how fast or how deep. Just keep it soft. And then we're going to try the active exhalation, which follows the passive exhalation that we've just done. So again, follow my instructions. You can do this all through your nose. Breathe out reasonably fully. Breathe out, and take a nice, deep, soft breath in. Fill in your lungs, and then relax, let the air go, and then squeeze some more air out. That's the active part. And go back to your normal breathing pattern. Again, this is really quite harsh. And the very next step is us controlling those 4 parts. So now we know what it feels like, the active and the passive inhalations and exhalations. And remember, what we're interested in is the changeover, the part between the inhalation, the 2 different types of inhalation, and the part between the 2 parts of the exhalation. The changeover, the transition point. So let me talk you through it, and let's do this together. So everybody breathe out through the nose, breathe out, dropping the shoulders, elbows nice and heavy, and then slowly allow the belly to fall forwards in the passive inhalation. And at some point it will stop, and then we actively inhale. Up to the top of the lungs, where we have the transition, change direction, and then control the air exhaling as we soften the shoulders, let the body sink, and the air will come out of its own accord, but don't let it come out too quick, so controlling it, and then it will stop at some point, and then we actively squeeze out the rest of the air. Now we're fully empty, allow the belly to fall forwards, slowly, controlling how slow the air comes in. At some point it will stop, and then we actively draw air in. Then we change direction, relax, soften, the air will escape, but control how slow it goes. Then it stops, we transition to actively squeezing the air out, till we're at the bottom of the breath, where we again transition, change direction, allow the belly to fall forwards. Air is being drawn in just by gravity. Then it stops, then we actively draw air in. And I want you just to be aware of this cycle. Passive exhalation, active exhalation, passive inhalation, active inhalation. And remember, we'll be concentrating on the parts between the breaths. So changing directions at the top and the bottom, and then changing what we're controlling. And I want you just to take a few more breaths like this. Be aware of the passive exhalation, then squeezing the air to change over that control, that transition to squeezing the air out. Then we're fully empty, we change direction, and the air just gets drawn in, passive inhalation, and an active drawing the air in. Now what I want you to do is open your mouth, but don't breathe through your mouth. Continue to breathe through your nose. And then on the next inhalation, I want you to breathe through your mouth. So breathe out, and when you get down to the bottom, change direction. Feel something change in the back of your throat that allows you to breathe through your mouth. Passive inhalation, active inhalation through the mouth. When you get to the top, you can change back to the nose. Passive exhalation, active exhalation through the nose. Now, I want you to take the next step of control where passive exhalation is through the mouth, active exhalation is through the nose. Passive inhalation is through the mouth, active inhalation is through the nose. Passive through the mouth, active through the nose. Then you change direction, so you change it again. And I really want you to be aware of what you're changing in the back of the throat, the back of the glottis, the soft palate, to allow you to change between breathing through the nose and breathing through the mouth. It should be super soft and subtle. And now, when you've done that a few times, remember I put this video up specifically that you can watch it again and do this exercise again tomorrow and the next time and the next day. But I want to add on to this a breath hold. It's a passive breath hold, just at the changeover. So you're going to do it on the exhalation. So after the passive exhalation, you stop. Keeping your mouth open, keeping your nose open. Just for 2 or 3 seconds before you actively squeeze the air out. Then passively inhale through the nose and mouth, preferably, but it doesn't matter which. Active inhalation, change direction, and then just let it go. Pause. Active exhalation, right down to the bottom. Change direction, passive inhalation. Change to active inhalation. When you get to the top, just let it go. Pause. You should have no tension. As you sit there just for 5 seconds, shoulders no tension, hips no tension, legs no tension, and then actively squeeze the rest of the air out. And then change direction, start on a passive inhalation, active inhalation, change direction, and then relax, let everything go. Where you stop is where you stop. Keep the mouth open, keep the nose open, and stay there for 5-10 seconds. Don't time it, just be aware of time passing. And when you're ready, continue to squeeze the air out of an active exhalation. I'm going to do this another 2 times. So squeeze in the belly, squeeze all the air out, change direction, start breathing in. Passively, control it to the midpoint. And then actively inhale all the way to the top. And then relax, let the air just go. Pause there for as long as you feel comfortable. Be aware you're not using any energy to stay there. You may even feel your heartbeat. And if you're really, really soft, you'll feel the heartbeat moving air in and out through your nose and mouth. When you're ready, you can continue to actively exhale, squeeze the rest of the air out. Don't rush. Change direction, inhalation, passive, change to active inhalation to the top, and then just and if you're truly relaxed, you'll feel the heartbeat moving air in the nose and the mouth. And just start continuously breathing. Bring your awareness back to my voice. Bring your awareness back to your surroundings. So start feeling your chair, moving your feet a little bit, moving your hands a little bit. And you can do this exercise anywhere. Imagine now you can do this anywhere, any situation. Keeping your eyes closed, I'll just recap. So we start with finding the passive exhalation and the passive inhalation. Then we find the active inhalation and the active exhalation. So the passive exhalation is like a sigh. The passive inhalation is when you squeeze everything out and you're just like, so enjoyable, that part. And then the active part where you driving the air in or driving the air out, then we find those. And then when we found them, and it will be different every time you do this, in every situation you have to find them, have to take time to find them, then you can start focusing on the parts between the breaths, the transitions. Top and bottom, we know we can do that, but there's that transition in the middle between passive and active. And then you can start extending it just for 2 or 3 seconds, 10 seconds. Okay, so if you're in a nice quiet room, the best way to bring yourself back to that room is if you rub your hands in front of you to feel the warmth in the palms of your hands. Cover your eyes. You should be aware that it's darker because your hands are shutting out light as well as your eyelids. Then you open your eyelids behind your hands. Slowly bring yourself back. It's super important to allow yourself to come back to wherever you are, super smooth and super slow. Thank you very much for joining me. I haven't got any time to do, I will take note of the questions. Any questions you put up now, I'll take note. You can always message me on Facebook, on YouTube, wherever you fancy, and I'll get back to you on the next live stream and answer some of your questions. So see you later.